All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. Now, yesterday, the sports world lost a true legend as a former Boston Celtics center, Bill Russell, died at the age of 88. And you think about Russell's historic, and I use that term very strongly, historic 13-year NBA career. This was a guy that tasted championship gold 11 times as an NBA champion in the NBA, a five-time NBA MVP, and a 12-time NBA All-Star. And for his career, Russell averaged 15 points per game and 22 and a half rebounds. And he actually had the majority of his seasons where he averaged over 20 rebounds per contest. And even in his final NBA season during the 68-69 campaign at the age of 34, Russell still averaged more than 19 rebounds per game. And when you think about Bill Russell, he was one of the greatest defensive players that the NBA has ever seen. And this guy was an anchor and he was a catalyst for all of those championship Celtics teams of the 50s and the 60s. And honestly, at the end of the day, you cannot tell the story of the NBA from the 1950s and 1960s without mentioning the name Bill Russell. And I mean, those Celtics championship teams were littered with some talented players. Sam Jones, John Havlicek, just to name a few, Bob Cousy, of course, Sat Sanders, Tommy Heinsohn as well. And then, of course, you know, there is the great Bill Russell. And, Bill Russell and his head coach, Red Auerbach, they were always linked. And, you think about, Red Auerbach always going out there and finding a way to do his magic to find a gem. Russell, of course, was drafted by the St. Louis Hawks. And it was a situation where, he was able to make the trade for Russell. And of course, we saw Red Auerbach over the years pull out his magic to find a way to get the best players available to play for the Boston Celtics. And of course, Russell was no different in that. And it's amazing when you think about the story of Bill Russell for a franchise that had so many legendary players. Russell, to me, in my opinion, is head and shoulders above the rest. And I mean, the Celtics have had some tremendous players over the years. You think about, what Larry Bird, of course, meant to the Boston Celtics dynasty, excuse me, of the 1980s. And as good as Bird was, I'm going to put Russell, a notch ahead of Bird. Very strong player, mentally, always kept himself in good condition. Obviously, I wasn't around for those games, but I consider myself a sports historian and I've studied a lot. And I'm not here to brag or toot my own horn, none of that at all. But nonetheless, you see, you know, what Bill Russell was, and you see his impact on the game, and of course on the Boston Celtics. Also being a player coach, and helping the Celtics win a championship, coming back and being a coach for the Seattle SuperSonics at one point, being a coach for the Sacramento Kings, just a basketball lifer. And, on top of that, being a staunch fighter for social justice off the court, you think about some of the things that Mr. Russell had to deal with in his lifetime, and he was able to overcome a lot of that and just be a huge impact, not just on the basketball court for the NBA, but off of the court as well. And at the end of the day, when you think about the legacy of Bill Russell, there will never be another one. A couple of years ago, Commissioner Adam Silver named the NBA Finals MVP award after the great Bill Russell. And you think about, the honor, what an honor that is for players to now be recognized as that. And, you think about how Bill Russell loved his Boston Celtics. You go back, and you watch the games from the 1980s when the Celtics were consistent championship contenders with that, front line, that legendary front line of Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish. And, Bill Russell being in the locker room to congratulate those Celtics championship teams, and of course, Red Auerbach as well. And you could see the pride that he took in that. You think back to when the Celtics were able to win the championship in 2008. And for a guy like Kevin Garnett, who really, in a very quick time embraced the Celtics organization, but also, embraced, Mr. Bill Russell and everything that he stood for. And just getting back to the rebounding aspect of what Bill Russell was able to do. I'm going to give you an idea of this. For his 13-year career, he actually had 21,620 rebounds. The second closest player in Boston Celtics franchise history to Mr. Russell is Robert Parrish, and Robert Parrish has more than 10,000 rebounds less than what Bill Russell had. I heard Bill Russell talk about the art of the rebound, talked about knowing where the shot was going as soon as it left the player's hand and just putting himself in the right position to get that board. You think about, his legendary battles with the late great Wilt Chamberlain, and of course, Wilt played on some good teams in Philadelphia, was never able to overcome Russell Celtics, and then of course, getting to the NBA Finals with the Lakers and still being unable to overcome, Russell and those great Celtics teams. This was an icon. He truly was an icon both off and on the court. I can't say it enough about, Bill Russell and his impact on the game. Truly a legend. And, legend to me is a term that is thrown around, and in some cases is thrown around too much. But in the case of Mr. Russell, he was a legend. And, at the end of the day, you think about so many legendary big men who have played the great game of basketball in the NBA. And you think about Bill Russell, you think about Wilt Chamberlain, you think about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaquille O'Neal, Hakeem Olajuwon. I can go right down that list. Whatever way that you want to do it, as far as your top five centers of all time, whatever way you want to do it, as far as your top 10 players of all time, Bill Russell has to be in that mix, and he has to be near the top of that list as well. Players are going to consistently try, but I don't think in my lifetime we're ever going to see a player get that close or get, double digits as far as championships. You just think about his impact, regardless of the position. You see a guy like Robert Ory who has 7 championships. Of course, Michael Jordan with his 6, Kobe Bryant with his 5. And, when obviously, first and foremost, winning a championship is not easy. But for Bill Russell to do what he did and just be a part of a team, be a part of an organization that has simply dominated an era of basketball. That's what he meant. The sports world again lost a legend. There will never be another Bill Russell in the NBA. And he was a legend, but more importantly, he was one of a kind who did things his way and was unapologetic about it. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take the time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. You can check it out, drop a line, and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin. I am signing off, saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.